Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivarada Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivarada Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivarada Vallabha Girivarada Yashodandan Rajajana Jana Yashodanandana Rajajana Jana Rajajana Jana Yashodanandana Rajajana Jana Yashodanandana Yashodanandana Rajajana Jana Rajajana Jana Anachari Yamuna Anachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jai Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanand Rajajanandana Rajajanandana Yamuna Tira Madhachari Subhiraj Goswami Stotra Sthita Shishimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Subhiraj Goswami Stotra Sthita Shishimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, chapter entitled New Jagannath Puri. Gradually, under Srila Prabhupada's pure influence, Upendra began to feel less agitated by sexual demands. He came to understand that he was not a material body, but a spirit soul. That the soul's eternal nature was this love, Krishna, and that for a pure devotee, for Swamiji, love was for Krishna. More and more, Upendra just wanted to be the servant of Swamiji. He thought of what foods to buy for him and how to make things comfortable for him. It was in this mood of wanting to serve Swamiji that Upendra visited the psychedelic shop one day. He had heard they had recently received some prints from India. So he went in and browsed through the prints, picked out some pictures of Lord Krishna and took them to Swamiji. In Prabhupada's room, along with other devotees, Upendra unrolled the prints one by one on Prabhupada's desk, waiting to see Prabhupada's response. As Upendra watched, it seemed to him that Swamiji was looking at photos of his personal friend. He was pleased with the pictures. Hayagriva commented that the religious art of the Indian prints was a bit garish. Prabhupada explained that the technique didn't matter. The important thing was that the pictures were of Krishna and were executed according to Vedic descriptions. For the devotee, they were beautiful, they were non-different from Krishna. Prabhupada selected as his favorite a picture of Lord Krishna standing and playing his flute in the moonlight, the river Yamuna flowing by. In this picture, Krishna was known as Govinda. Prabhupada held the picture up and quoted a verse. Smeram Bangitraya Parichitam Sachi Vistirna Drishtim Vamsinyasta Daratushalayam Ujwala Chandra Kena Govindakyam Haritanum Itakeshi Tirtha Hakante Ma Prekshishtas Tava Yadisake Bandhu Sangistiranga. He then took a sheet of paper and began writing, while the devotees watched him intently, listening to the scratching of the pen on the page. Then they read aloud, Then he read out loud, "Oh, my dear friend, if you still have an inclination to enjoy material life, society, friendship, and love, then please do not see the boy named Govinda, who is standing in a three-curved way, smiling and skillfully playing on his flute, his lips brightened by the full moonshine." Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the fourth canto, chapter 30, entitled The Activities of the Prachetas, text number 7. I'll read it 3 times. Pinayat Pinayatashtabujamandala Madhya Lakshmya Spardachriya Parivrito Vanamalayadya Parhismata Purusha Aha Sutan Prapannan Parjanyanada Sagvinavaloka Pinayatashtabujamandala Madhya Lakshmya Spardachriya Parivrito Vanamalayadya Parhismata Purusha Aha Sutan Prapannan Parjanyanada Sagrinavaloka Pinayatashtabujamandala Lakshmya Spardachriya Parivrito Vanamalayadya Parhismata Purusha Aha Sutan Prapannan Parjanyanada Sagrinavaloka. Pina, stout. Yata, long. Ashta, 8. Bhuja, arms. Mandala, encirclement. Madhya, in the midst of. Lakshmya, with the goddess of fortune. Spardad, contending. Shriya, whose beauty. Parivrita, encircled. Vanamalaya, by a flower garland. Adya, the original personality of Godhead. Parhishmata, of King Prachinabhari. Purusha, the supreme personality of Godhead. Aha, dressed. Sutan, the sons. Prapannan, surrendered. Arjanya, like a cloud. Nada, whose sound. Rutaya, by a voice. Sagrina, with mercy. Avaloka, is glancing. Translation. Around the neck of the personality of Godhead hung a flower garland that reached to his knees. His 8 stout and elongated arms were decorated with that garland, which challenged the beauty of the goddess of fortune. With a merciful glance and a voice like thunder, the Lord addressed the sons of King Prachinabharishat, who were very much surrendered unto him. Report. The word Adya in this verse is very significant. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the origin even of Paramatma and Brahman. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Brahmano hi pratishtaham. The Absolute Truth begins not with the impersonal Brahman, but with the original personality of Godhead, Krishna. When Arjuna realized Krishna's greatness, he addressed him in this way. Param Brahma Param Dhamma Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashwatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum. You are the supreme Brahman, the ultimate, the supreme abode and purifier, the absolute, and the eternal divine person. You are the primal God, transcendental and original, and you are the unborn and all-pervading beauty. The Brahma Samhita also says, Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. The Supreme Lord is not caused by anything, Anadi, but he is the cause of all causes. The Vedanta Sutra says, Janmadi Asyataha. The Absolute Truth is that from which everything emanates. The Absolute Truth is described as Adi Purusha. The Absolute Truth is therefore a person and is not impersonal. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Omagyanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guru Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. Around the neck of the personality of Godhead hung a flower garland that reached to his knees. His 8 stout and elongated arms were decorated with a garland, which challenged the beauty of the goddess of fortune. With a merciful glance and a voice like thunder, the Lord addressed the sons of King Prachinabharishat, who were very much surrendered unto him. There are many things Srila Prabhupada could have focused on in his purport, but he chose to focus on the word Adya. who is the beginning. Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha. That beginning is the original person, the oldest, yet he is a fresh youth, Navayovanam. Prabhupada also quotes two separate verses using that word, Adi Devam, the original God of all gods, and the Brahma Samhita again, Anadir Adir Govinda. So why would Prabhupada focus on that? Two reasons I can think of. One is that religion means to understand the beginning, the source of everything. Srila Prabhupada once said that I came here for two reasons. One is to defeat the scientists. Another is to establish Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the beginning is not the Big Bang, as most people would like to accept today. The beginning is a person. And so Srila Prabhupada took great effort into hammering this point throughout all his purports, all his books, his lectures. Particularly, Prabhupada was encouraged by an incident that happened in 1935. Prabhupada at that time was 38 years old, and it was the Vyasa Puja ceremony of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Prabhupada wrote a poem for that celebration, and he combined it with a speech in the English language, because we know the instruction Srila Prabhupada got was to preach in the English language. And so the poem began, Adore, adore ye all, the happy day. Blessed than heaven, sweeter than May. In that poem, Srila Prabhupada really revealed many Vedic truths. And so there were many sannyasis in the Gaudiya Math at that time. Many were not so proficient in the English language. Srila Prabhupada was a business person. And so when they read his offering, one senior godbrother dubbed Prabhupada as a kavi. They understand this is even the lecture, the speech that he wrote was based on Vedic scripture. It was authoritative, it was poetic, and it was from Srila Prabhupada's pure devotion to his spiritual master. And so this poem and lecture, letter, was submitted to a magazine Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had established for preaching in the English language named The Harmonist. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was in Jagannath Puri, and he read this poem, and he was very pleased with it, particularly one line, two lines that read, Absolute is sentient, thou has proved, impersonal calamity, thou has removed. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he said, this Abhaicharan, he had understood my heart. And one of Prabhupada's godbrothers compared this to the incident where Rupa Goswami, he had indicated Mahaprabhu's mind by writing a particular verse that moved Mahaprabhu into ecstasy. So after this Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he would show this line to everybody who came to see him. Absolute sentient, thou has proved, impersonal calamity, thou has removed. And he told the publishers of the Harmonist that whatever Abai writes, you publish it. So Prabhupada, when he heard how pleased his spiritual master was, that incident fueled his preaching more and more. Later on, when he had many disciples, he wrote in one letter to a disciple that, yes, this is our purpose, to remove all impersonal and voidism from the minds of the people. And that these lines, they please my Guru Maharaj very much. He quoted the poem, and he said, so let me follow in the same principle, and he will bless me more and more. So in trying to achieve Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's pleasure, Srila Prabhupada did many things. He preached very strongly. He printed so many books. He established a GBC, which Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wanted after his departure. That's the instruction that he gave. And he would say, my only credit is I did not invent anything. And those who did not follow Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, they became useless. They became asar. So Adya is the beginning. The beginning is a person, and this is what the acharyas want everyone to understand. The beginning, even the Bible says, in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was God. So that original is a person, and here the Prachetas are getting direct darshan of him. And in this verse and the preceding two, these three verses, there's a description of his form. Person means a form, as Prabhupada would say in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. They want to say he has no arms, he has no legs, he cannot see, he cannot speak. So in other words, they want to kill the personality of Godhead. Some people agree that God is the beginning, but then they say he doesn't exist anymore. They say God is dead. So therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I am the beginning, I am the middle, I am the end of all beings and of all creations. So the Prachetas have the good fortune to see Krishna directly. Of course, it's the Vishnu form they are seeing with 8 arms. Nonetheless, his description is very beautiful, very captivating. He is bluish in complexion. He has yellow dress. He is garlanded, as Queen Kunti prays. Namo Pankajanabhaya, Namo Pankajamaline, Namo Pankajanetraya, Namaste Pankajangare. My obeisances are unto you, my Lord, whose navel is marked with a depression like a lotus, who's always decorated with garlands of lotuses, whose glance is as cool as a lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. He's also decorated with a helmet, with many jewels, and as we hear, although those are meant to be decorations, actually his body is the ornament of all ornaments. He decorates that which he wears. So this is the perfection of the sense of sight. The gopis pray in the 10th canto that for those who have eyes, this is the perfect thing to see, Krishna's form. And in his original form, he's even more sweet, as we are reading the Prabhupada Lilamrita now. Krishna's form is already extraordinary, inconceivably beautiful. But when he stands in the threefold bending form, his already inconceivable beauty is beautified. And so the gopis, even when they blink for a second, they condemn the creator for the inability to behold Krishna's form. During the day, Krishna leaves with the cowherd boys, and so they are not able to see him. And that time they lament. When he returns at night, they are able to see him, but still for that momentary eclipse of their vision, they are very much saddened. Krishna's form is said to be so beautiful that even he becomes captivated by it. In later parts of his pastime in Dwarka, we hear of Krishna feeling separation from the residents of Vrindavan. And so in dreams, he would call out different devotees' names, the cowherd boys and the gopis. And the residents of Dwarka would very much be aggrieved seeing his condition. And even when he was awake, sometimes when he was reminded of Vrindavan, he would faint and shed tears. And so at one point, Brahma, he summoned Vishvakarma, the architect of the demigods, to create a replica of Vrindavan. And there he created groves, he created pasturing grounds, he created Govardhan Hill, and the Yamuna was there, and he installed deities of all the residents of Vrindavan. So Krishna would feel at home. And so Krishna was wandering through this new Vrindavan, and at that time, he would be dressed as a cowherd boy. Particularly Balaram will take him there to relieve his anxieties. And so he'd wear a peacock feather and a turban, and he would wander around the replica of Vrindavan. And while wandering through, he caught a glimpse of his own reflection in the bejeweled pillar. And he became absorbed in his own image, wondering who is this beautiful young boy. After some time, he came back to external consciousness and realized it's his own reflection. And so he desired to become his own devotee to understand his own sweetness. So we hear three reasons from Mahaprabhu's advent, internal reasons, that is. That is to understand the love of Srimati Radharani, to taste the qualities in him that she alone relishes through her love, and to experience the happiness she feels when she understands the sweetness of his love. So Krishna's form is very beautiful, and the Prachetas are seeing it here after prolonged austerities. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Srila Sanatana Goswami, he says that the perfection, the conclusion of all one's devotional service in the form of hearing and chanting is the direct and complete vision of the Lord. So the devotees, yes, they can see Krishna directly, but in the material world, Krishna remains aloof because living entities are not here to be God conscious, they're here to forget. So he gives them that facility. So many people will ask, how is it that you can dedicate your whole life to a person that you don't see? But the answer to that is that Krishna is visible here. Uh, he incarnates in different ways. Of course, he comes personally, but when he leaves, he also comes as the form of the deity. The deity is not to be minimized. The Shastra says that if one sees the Vigraha, Archa Vigraha, as wood or stone, they're considered to be a resident of hell. And so, in that beautiful form of the deity, the devotee's mind is captivated. The deity is dressed very attractively in festivals, and everyone comes to behold his form. And by that vision, if a devotee is absorbed, one is able to hold Krishna's form even within their heart. So Prabhupada, he explains that the mind is like a camera. This is in one of the descriptions he was given of the Shishtastika, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. So he was saying how the mind is like a camera, and everything that we experience in life, the mind takes images and keeps them within the consciousness. And so the chanting of the holy name cleanses those illusory conceptions and images from the mind. But also, when one sees things that are related to Krishna, the mind also takes those images and keeps them within the heart. So there are descriptions of devotees, the gopis and others, who when they behold Krishna's form, they embrace him within their hearts. They basically, Krishna enters through the eyes and he is conquered within the heart. I was reading the Krishna book recently, the story of Aghasura, and there it's described how Krishna entered Aghasura's mouth. We know the pastime of the cowherd boys. They found the big body of the serpent. They were wondering what it is. They thought maybe we'll enter, Krishna will save us. Sure enough, they did. Krishna came in to Aghasura's mouth and expanded his body and killed the demon in that way. So in the Krishna book, Prabhupada explains that Aghasura's position is very much favored, even more than the yogis and other devotees, because the devotees are trying to allow Krishna to enter within their heart, within their body. But Aghasura had Krishna personally walk into his mouth. So this is one importance of seeing the deity. That the more that that vision is impressed within our heart, the more that actually, even when we're not in front of the deity, whether we're serving Krishna, whether we're chanting our japa in kirtan or in other activities, still that vision manifests. Krishna's form is there within our consciousness. So that's one way we can see Krishna in our life. He's there in his form of the deity. Another way a devotee sees Krishna is Krishna's hand in our life, which the Bhagavatam, the 11th canto, says that is like nourishment. Bhakti pareshanu bhavo, viraktirir anratcha chaiskachika eka kala. So pareshanu bhava is direct perception of the Supreme Lord. And that is, the more one's devotion is increased, the more one engages in devotional service, the more one sees, yes, Krishna's hand is in everything that I do. So that gives a devotee encouragement. For many of us, we may have experiences in our life where we saw Krishna's hand at work Actually, many people in all religions, this is how they have conviction in God's existence. They have never seen him, but they see how he is maneuvering in their day-to-day life. Book distribution is very wonderful for that because we see the super soul in action, bringing many people to devotional service. And as new devotees, we may have experiences how Krishna encouraged us in little ways. There's one incident in my beginning of Krishna consciousness where it was my first birthday as a devotee practicing Krishna consciousness. And I gave up all the association of everybody I knew prior because I knew they're not going to help me become a devotee. Bad association. And nobody knew it was my birthday, and I had heard in a lecture that actually one shouldn't celebrate their birthday because taking birth in this material world is nothing to be proud of. So I thought this is a very good philosophy. It's logical. So my birthday came, nobody knew, but I had ran a red light about a couple of weeks before while I was driving. And I had a ticket come in the mail for about $300. So I went to the court date, traffic court, and there was about 20 or 30 people charged with the same thing, running a red light. So at that time, months prior, all the devotees would try to get me to buy a Bhagavatam set. And I was under the conception of religion is just one book, like the Quran, the Bible, and you just read that over and over. So for about almost 8 months or so, maybe even longer, I was just reading the Bhagavad Gita. And I had the Gita prior, 2 years before I met the devotees, I was reading it. So I had read the Bhagavad Gita probably 8 or 10 times. And nobody was able to get me to buy a Bhagavatam set. I would always tell them I don't need it, I'll just read the Bhagavad Gita. So I went to this traffic court and 20 people, one after the other, going up. And how you would get convicted is if the car is under your name, the picture is there, the license plate is there, that's it. $300 fined. So I was sitting there and waiting, and I thought, this is such a waste of money. So I told Krishna in my heart, if you get me out of this, I'll buy the Bhagavatam, I promise you. So I began to pray as hard as I've ever prayed for about 10 or 15 minutes. Please get me out of this, I'll buy you the set. So sure enough, after about 20 people, I came up to the judge and the prosecutor, she just started like fiddling around with all her paperwork and she couldn't find the picture of my car, the license plate. So about 30 or 40 seconds standing in front of the judge, they just said, all right, you can leave. And as soon as I left, I went and bought the Bhagavatam. And I remember I took the Bhagavatam right off the shelf. It wasn't even in a box, put it in the back of the seat of the car. And while I was driving away, I felt very happy. I knew Krishna got me to buy this set, although I didn't want it. And I started reading it. And immediately I was very happy that I had the Bhagavatam. I'd read 2 hours a day, and I felt Krishna's reciprocation. So many of us will have experiences like that in our life. And that encourages us more and more to remain as Krishna's devotees. I've heard Kadambakana Maharaj say that one actually should pray to Krishna for more inspiration, more dedication to become his devotee. And sometimes it can be very little things. It doesn't have to be very dramatic, but for us experiencing it, it's very significant. So Krishna's hand is in all our lives. I know when I first started practicing also, I looked back at the 22 years of existence in this body, and I saw, connecting all the dots, that everything that happened in my life was leading me to this point, to take to Krishna consciousness. So that's seeing Krishna. That's just as good as seeing the Lord within our heart. Sorry, directly within our vision. Actually, it's even more significant because if you see somebody directly in front of you, but that person never reciprocates your love, there's no attachment there. There's no affection. Okay, you see them, but there's no reciprocation. But if a person is always reciprocating with you, even though you don't see them, that's most significant. They touch your heart in so many ways. So Krishna does like that. He touches our heart in many wonderful ways. He comes as the deity, and he also comes as the spiritual master. The Bhagavatam says, Acharya Mam Vijaniyan Navamanyeta Karhichit, that one should never see the spiritual master as an ordinary person. He's a direct representative of Krishna himself. And so the Chaitanya Charitamritas also famously, Brahmanda Brahmate Konya Bhagyavan Jeev. When Krishna is pleased with somebody, he manifests himself as the guru. Another name for guru is Krishna Kripa Murti. He is Krishna's mercy taking on a body. So we cannot see Krishna, but we can see the devotees around us. We can see the spiritual master who's a pure representative, who is non-different from Krishna. Srila Jiva Goswami, he clarifies that the pure devotee's vision of Guru as one, Guru and Lord Shiva, a pure devotee's vision of them as one with the Supreme Lord, is not that they are completely identical, but that they are very dear devotees of the Lord. So, Kintu Prabhuya Priya Eva Tasya. The spiritual master is very dear to Krishna. He is Krishna himself. And by directly hearing from him and following his instruction, it's just good at seeing God. Actually, the Prachetas here later on in this chapter, they give all credit for the directly seeing the Lord to Lord Shiva. Because you may remember, chapters prior, they were singing the song sung by Lord Shiva for 10,000 years, I believe, underneath the water. So their austerities were mixed by devotion. That devotion was given to them by Lord Shiva. And so the guru is just as good as seeing Krishna, but by following the guru's instruction, then ultimately one can get even more intensified vision of Krishna to the extent that Krishna will manifest himself personally. There are examples of this in the Bhagavatam of Dhruva Maharaj. We hear he followed Narada Muni's instructions. Chitraketu also, in the beginning, Angira came to see him, and he wasn't ready to hear instructions. Later on, when he was ready, after his son had died, Angira brought along Narada Muni, and Narada Muni gave him a mantra to chant, and by repeating that mantra for 7 days, then he was able to get the direct vision of the Lord. So, seeing Krishna is available. There are many ways to see him. His form is important, but we also hear that one should see through the ears. The Bhagavatam in the first canto, there's a wonderful verse by Narada Muni, Iti murtyam abhidanena manta murtim amurtikam yajate yagya purusham sasam yag darshana puman. He says that he is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, who has no material form. So the holy name of the Lord is equal to the Lord, and it gives us vision of Krishna himself. It actually can also give vision of the spiritual world. Srila Prabhupada gave the example of radio waves, that you may be in a certain location, but you're able to perceive something happening somewhere else by dint of that technology. For example, I'm speaking here now, and there's devotees in the room, but there's also devotees in their own home, and both are having the same experience. So by dint of technology, one is able to be present in another location. So this wonderful example Srila Prabhupada gave of the chanting of the holy name, it's able to give us vision of Krishna, who may be situated somewhere else. And as Narottam Das Thakur sings, Golokera Premadan Harinam Sankirtan. But this chanting is not of the material world, it is directly imported from Goloka. So this is a few ways that a devotee can see the Lord. Of course, the holy name is easily accessible, and therefore it is the best means. Kali Kalir Nama Rupa, Krishna Avatar. In the age of Kali, Krishna has incarnated as his holy name. In the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is a wonderful incident when he was leaving Navadvip. He was taking sannyas. And all the devotees heard Mahaprabhu is leaving. Everyone was lamenting, feeling the imminent separation. Mother Sachi, particularly, she could not bear to hear he was about to leave her. And so for days, Mahaprabhu was in her home. And after some nights, she approached him. I hear you are leaving me. Please don't go. Why don't you just stay here? You can do kirtan with Advaita and Srivas and Gadadhar. There's no need to leave. I am simply maintaining my life by seeing your effulgence in the house, your long arms and your lotus eyes. If you leave me, I will die. She said, your brother has left me, your father has gone to Vaikunta, and you've incarnated to teach Dharma, religious principles. So what kind of Dharma is it to leave your mother? In commenting on that, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says that actually Mahaprabhu did like this, and Mother Sachi spoke these words, this is not Dharma, to teach what is the highest Dharma, which is Savai Pumso Paro Dharma, love of Godhead. But nonetheless, Mahaprabhu was quiet while she was lamenting like this. Finally, he began to pacify her, and he said, you are my associate eternally. You are always my mother. Previously, you were Prishni, then you were Aditi. As Vamana Devi, you gave me birth. As Kaushalya, I was your son as Ramachandra. As Devahuti, I came as Kapila. I took birth as your son in the prison house of Kamsa, as Devaki. And in this incarnation, I will take birth from you twice more. He said, as the earth, you will birth me as the deity. And as the tongue, you will birth me as the holy name. So this is a very instructive. Again, the Lord is there present as the deity and present as the holy name. They are equal to Krishna. So these are a few ways that we can see Krishna. We can see him within our life. We can see him present in the association of the spiritual master and the devotees and in the activities of devotional service. So thank you for listening. And if there's anybody who would like to add anything, I'll stop here.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for explaining that text to make us understand how this personal form of Lord can be achieved. Yeah, Lord is available in every form, but only understood by the real knowledge of the scripture. So the personal form of Lord can be seen, as we mentioned nicely, that it is through the deity and the holy name. So it is giving a direct perception how the impersonalists think that the Lord is impersonal. So to break that notion, Srila Prabhupada has commented on this text. The personal form is available, is only upon us how we see to it. If you go through the instruction of the spiritual master, which is the original form of the Lord itself. So, by associating with the spiritual master, getting his instruction and following the instruction in the right context, you can see the Lord in person. So, that is the impact of this text. So, understand the personal form of the Lord is very much possible only by knowing Him, knowing His nature, and the instruction by the spiritual master, who is none other than the representative of Lord Krishna himself. So here, the Prachetas, who were after 10,000, all the Prachetas came after 10,000 of years after severe austerity. When they saw Lord Krishna, they could realize, because they have done the austerities for such a long time under the instruction of Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is none other than the spiritual master, and through his instruction they can see the Lord in presence. So that is how this text is telling us. Lord is is a person. It is up to us how to understand him. So through instruction and through his name and in the deity form. That's why in the temple, when you see the Lord in the deity form, is none other than the Lord himself. So to understand his personal form, these are the two things which reminds us the Lord is present every moment, everywhere in our heart. It is a matter of understanding the Lord through the real perspective and to the instruction of spiritual master. So Lord is personal and there is no question of impersonality of the Lord. So to understand these two things and the right perspective, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned this text very nicely. And you explained it so nicely with examples to make it understand that Lord is a person. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Okay, we'll stop here. Kantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
की जय
Vacha
वाचा
kalpatarubhyascha
कल्पतरुभ्यश्च
कृपा
कृपा
सिन्धुभ्य
सिन्धुभ्यश्च
पतितानां
पतितानां
पावनेभ्यो
पावनेभ्यो
नमो
नमो नमः
नमः
अनंत
Ananta
कोटि
Koti
वैष्णव
Vaishnava
की
Vrinda
जय
ki
हिज
jai.
ग्रेस वृंदावन
Jai
माधुर्य प्रभु की जय
Prabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
जय
Gaur Premanande
हरि हरि
Hari
बोल
Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled
हरे
devotees.
कृष्णा
Hari Krishna.